Oh, God.
Executive session?
So moved, Grossman.
Second?
Second, Farrell.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So before we begin, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Grossman.
I thought it was
Second.
Pardon?
Second. Second public.
The second public hearing?
Yes.
I understand. Okay. All right. Notice of this regular meeting of the Pitman Board of Education was advertised in the South Jersey Times, posted at Borough Hall, a copy thereof delivered to all Pitman schools to be posted, and posted on the district's website. Further, notice was posted and filed as required by law, stating that the board would meet in closed session at 7 p.m. in the Pitman High School Media Center. The president shall entertain any objections with supporting reasons to the conduct of this meeting on the grounds that it violates the Open Public Meeting Act. Seeing none, good evening and welcome to the Pitman Board of Education meeting. Please join me in a moment of silence. Please join me in a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Rose, will you please call roll?
Miller,
Here.
Papalardo, Grossman,
Here.
Higby-Iono,
Here.
Bolton,
Here.
Farrell,
Here.
Pote, here, and Mr. Crispin is absent. Presentation. Do you have any presentation?
We have no presentations, correct?
No, we do not. We do have a correspondence from Ms. Pally's.
Okay.
Ms. Pally's writes, "Dear Board of Education members, thank you so much for the wonderful send-off. The watch is beautiful. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of the Pitman community for 24 years. I have enjoyed every minute of it. I wish for the Pitman School District to continue to be a place for students and staff to be proud to be a part of. Thank you, Denise Pally's."
Very sweet. Okay, that's going to bring us to our first public comment. The Pitman Public School Board recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. This is the first of two public comments we will have tonight. The first public hearing is on agenda items only. This is a public comment and not a dialogue between the board and the public. You will have 3 minutes to speak and is your opportunity to comment or ask questions. In accordance with board policy number 0167, we ask that you state your name, municipality of residence, and group affiliation if applicable. To be recognized to speak, please stand at the microphone located right here and speak clearly into the microphone.
My name is Christine Ware. I'm from Pitman. My son is in the 2nd grade. I prepared a statement because I'm a little nervous.
Is this on an agenda
Agenda?
item?
No.
There's gonna be a second public hearing for
Yeah.
any item. We'll let you know when that is.
Would anyone like to speak to any of the agenda items? It's going to bring us to our approval of meeting minutes. I will now move to accept a motion. The minutes of the Pitman Board of Education meeting held on the dates listed below are approved as printed and reading dispensed with. May I have a second?
Second, Higby-Iono.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? Any abstentions? I abstain. Okay, that's going to bring us to our president's report. I'm gonna put this portion for next month. The newly formed Pitman Elementary School has a new home and school association. So the HSA for our elementary school, our HSAs do a wonderful job in the community. They're tremendous volunteers. They bring in a lot of resources with, financially and through their blood, sweat, and tears into helping support our students and staff. So the newly formed HSA will provide enrichment opportunities such as field trips, school-wide assemblies, and so much more. We'd like you to check out their social media page for more information, including upcoming events. The newly formed HSA is being led by President Ashley Mason, and she can be reached at pitmanelementaryhsa@gmail.com, or you can contact her via Messenger on the HSA's Facebook page. As always, if there's ever an organization in town whose sole purpose is to support Pitman public school students, you're welcome to email me at my board email, and I'd be happy to share any fundraisers or events that you have as part of our President's Report. A couple training updates that I'd like to provide. In May, Mr. Grossman, Mrs. Higby-Iono, Mrs. Pappalardo, and myself were able to attend the Camden and Gloucester County, New Jersey School Board Association meeting. Meetings are held every month, and they provide training opportunities for Board of Education members. They're free to the school district and school board members. They're part of our dues that we pay to the NJSBA. So they provide updates like legislative advocacy updates. They give us some additional information about the actual NJSBA, and they usually have a topic that they cover. This particular month's topic was the negotiation portal, which is, it creates a database of other CBAs within the state and provides some additional information for Board of Education members who are participating in that process. We also held county officer elections, and I was elected to serve for the Gloucester County co-vice president of legislation. So I'm hopeful that that will provide additional opportunities for me to continue to advocate for our district and for all of Gloucester County, for all the areas that are of public importance importance to public education. But I think that, it should provide some increased opportunities to be a part of those discussions. On July 12th, I attended the virtual training for the board role in governance in CUSAC and learned some of the details of what the board is responsible for as it pertains to CUSAC. For my remaining board members, I will type up those training notes, and I'll upload them into our board training folder if you'd like the kind of Cliff Notes version of it. And then today I had the New Jersey School Board Association Government Relations update call. So just to update both members of the public and other board members on some of the topics that were discussed. Senate Bill 3349 was signed into law this month. This prohibits districts from having tuition policies that are not uniform across the grade. So interestingly enough, kind of right on the heels of us having that discussion, the state has said that all the students in that grade, despite any of their participation in any of those types of activities, must have a uniform tuition rate. So you'll see that reflected later in this evening's agenda. We also discussed, and I thought this was a topic of particular interest, the budget for extraordinary special education categorical aid. So the state of New Jersey, there's a particular type of funding source, this categorical aid, that's supposed to be for extraordinary special education costs, kind of above what they would consider. They have a threshold that they set for it. And they have different reimbursement rates depending on the placement of the child. So to give you an example, if we had a student whose best placement for education was a private school for special education type facility, they would, and their tuition was $90,000, for example. The threshold that the state would set for that would be $55,000. So the first $55,000 of that tuition bill is something that we would pay as part of our budget. Then after that threshold, the statute, the School Funding Reform Act, and really it kind of the extraordinary aid kind of predates that, but it's supposed to pay for the balance of it at a certain percentage. So in this scenario, the percentage would be 75%. So they would give us 75% of that remaining balance back as a reimbursement towards the exceptional cost to that. They've never fully funded that portion of the formula either. So they actually don't give us the full amount that we are to be reimbursed. So to give you an example, 2 years ago, the state provided about 90% of extraordinary aid reimbursements. And they only wrote the checks for 90, there was a 10% discount off the top they took before we get our reimbursement. Last year it was 84%, and this year, based on the $420 million, it's likely to be 72%. And that is flat to last year. So in this year's governor's budget update, when he speaks to the numbers and talks about the increased funding in education, there's other items that they're not funding to the degree that they did previously. And that is problematic for a number of reasons, but like everything, special education tuition costs have gone up. the services and the providers that we have to utilize have increased costs, just like everyone else. And so it's a pretty big hole to fill when we talk about the cost of budgeting for special education and making sure that as a district we're prepared to ensure that all of our students have their needs met and that we are, in the position to pay for them. But the state is not increasing their line item to be aligned with what the actual cost is. So as we look to some of that funding formula legislative advocacy, that's something that I think is a topic that really is an easy focus because they haven't funded it at 100%. And that's something that I think you'll continue to see districts advocate for and that we should, as a board, continue to keep our eye on and monitor. But I thought it was very enlightening. At the same time, the budget took capital improvements and they took the line item of $5 million and they increased it to $20 million, but just for charter schools. So there's other buckets that are available for public schools, but a line item that was initially supposed to be $5 million was quadrupled for charter schools. So we talk about like public education and funding. These are some of the challenges that districts face when they're trying to estimate what their aid will look like in future years. An additional bill that was passed this year was eliminating the S2 reductions, and they put several parameters in the bill for which districts would qualify to no longer face S2 reductions. So you had to meet these very specific criteria, and so specific that only one school district in the state of New Jersey qualifies. That's Freehold. So the language of that particular bill is written in a way that Freehold will not face S2 reductions, but does not address the underlying challenges of the School Funding Reform Act. So these were some of the topics that were discussed today. There was an additional assembly bill that I think we should keep our eye on. Let me see if I can find that one in my notes real quick. I apologize. That assembly bill, I'll send it out to everyone. That assembly bill is discussing that equalization the evaluation that we talked about, that property valuation as it pertains to local fair share. It's passed the assembly, but it's kind of stalled out. They want to use a 5-year average instead of a 1 year. You know how it has changed from year to year, and we've seen these big swings in what our valuation looked like and what our district income looked like. This would use a 5-year average. So the hope would be that communities like ours wouldn't face what we've kind of faced, because it would slow the ability for it to change so dramatically. So I think that's something that is a good targeted area to provide some relief in the funding formula, but we'll see. Another item that I wanted to bring to the Board of Education attention is the Assembly Bill 1181. That has passed the Assembly, and it would require high school students to complete financial aid applications as a high school graduation requirement. Counselors and parents could waive that requirement, but it is just a very interesting bill. I see some potential concerns, and I think it may warrant some additional scrutiny. So I just wanted to put that on everyone's radar as we kind of move forward, as it moves forward, because it is expected to continue to progress. It's not stalled out like the last one that we just discussed. And the last thing that I wanted to mention to the board was the NJ4S. So the school-based youth services, they've replaced the model for that, and they've created a hub and spoke model. There'll be 15 hubs placed throughout the state in different regions, and then they will have different spokes or kind of vectors into the communities to provide the services that school-based youth services previously had provided. So as we continue to see this new program roll out, they did fund school-based youth services for 1 additional year, but kind of evaluating that program's effectiveness and making sure that it's reaching students throughout the region, and understanding that school-based youth services is there to address some of the things we know are huge challenges in all of our communities: mental health, SEL, professional development. So just seeing that, making sure that Pitman students are being served by the new program, comparative to the previous program, is something I think that we should keep on our radar as we move through some of those kind of discussions next year, because I think that's another opportunity to make sure that we're advocating from a legislative perspective to a system that works best. And the last thing that I wanted to discuss with the board was the Board of Education retreat. We've discussed possible dates. Terry Lewis had August 22nd available our New Jersey School Board Association field rep. So I wanted to inquire to the rest of the board if that is an evening you're available. Tuesday. Dave, are you good?
I'm always
Yeah, I can.
That should be good.
Yeah,
Yeah, it should be fine.
everyone's good? Okay, so I'll go ahead and reach back out to Terry Lewis, and we will try to get that scheduled. All right, so we're going to, so who's presenting the superintendent's report? Is
I
Miss-
can, or Ms. Moody?
Okay,
Whichever.
who,
Security drills, they're in there, all the security drills that we had done throughout the month of July. Elementary school mascot, there was some discussion to try and unify the district and make one mascot. As you know, we're the Pitman Panthers, and the elementary school would like to be the Pitman Cubs. So they thought that was a good idea to be able to have something for themselves, so it would be the Pitman Cubs. Just let us know your thoughts and feelings on that. We thought that it was a great idea to have that for our little guys. Then we talk about the school starting and ending times. As you can see there, the junior and senior high school students will begin at 7:55 a.m. and end at 2:42. The elementary school will begin at 8:30 a.m. and end at 3. And then Memorial School, the Early Childhood Center, would be 8:45 to 3:15 p.m. We're hoping that alleviates some of the traffic around the schools and give parents enough time to get to the locations to pick up their children. And that's it.
we're gonna table the student representative report. They will be
Yes.
joining us in August. So that's going to lead us to finance and facilities, and I'll turn it over to committee chairperson, Mr. Grossman.
The Finance and Facility Committee met on July 12th, 2023 at 12:30 p.m. via Google Meet. In attendance was Interim Superintendent Steve Crispin, Business Administrator Carissa Rose, Committee myself, Board Member Rebecca Hibbiaiono, and President April Miller. We discussed the cost of some of our annual contracts for various vendors, including Linkit, Frontline, IXI, Lunchtime. Contracted prices vary, with some contracts such as Lunchtime decreasing from last year's price. Last year's contract with this vendor included the required purchase of the software, so there is a cost savings this year. Our IT department and business office was working with the vendors that we purchased licenses through to ensure we are receiving the most competitive pricing available. With a reduction in the number of schools this year, they wanted to look for any savings opportunities. We received the budget status and one-time funding sources such as maintenance of equity funds, also known as MOQ, Senate Bill 3732, which was returned nearly 2/3 of our S2 reduction from 1 year, and ESSER funds. We discussed the HVAC project for the high school gym, the weight room, and the corresponding ROD grant application, which could award the district 40% of the cost of that project. The committee discussed the tuition policy and the financial impact. The committee is recommending the reduced tuition rate for our 9th to 12th grade students. We received an update on the professional moving company that has been contracted, and they are ahead of schedule. The vendor was very complimentary about our staff's hard work in packing the boxes and leaving the classrooms very well organized for the move. The vendor will be offering a day 2 service where they will return to move desks, filing cabinets, etc. to the teacher's preferred locations. The facility committee discussed the elementary school playground project, elementary school bathroom renovations or modifications, the air conditioning that is now in all classrooms at the new Pitman Elementary School, and other facility-related projects. The committee discussed the necessity for tree removal. We've had several trees that have begun to damage our building. For example, we have a tree whose roots have now caused significant leaking in the window of a basement space and is causing additional damage. We are aware that members of the public have expressed concern regarding the trees being marked. As previously discussed, the intention of the district was to receive estimates, while the vendor was already out for all of the trees that could potentially pose problems in the future. So we are prepared in the event that there is an issue. The district is only removing the trees that need to be removed. Finally, we discussed the 7th and 8th graders' usage of the new senior-junior high school facility. The Board of Education recognizes the shift in available space for those students and wanted to confirm The district is evaluating any and all auxiliary spaces for alternative or multi-purpose use. Identifying those spaces in advance of the school year will ensure staff will have the tools they need to utilize those spaces when the need arises to offer a number of support services.
Any discussion?
What are the items? 1 through 16.
Okay.
Any questions? I move items 1 through 16 on the agenda for board approval.
Second, Bolton.
Hey.
I thought I would be in the committee.
Yeah.
What does this mean? Mrs. Roots, call the bill.
Higby Iona?
Yes to all except, motion number 2, or item number 2, I abstain.
Bolton?
Yes.
Farrell?
Yes.
Pote?
Yes.
Grossman?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Curriculum instruction. Ms. Bolton, are you reading that?
Mhm.
Okay, I'll turn it over to Mrs. Bolton.
All right, the Curriculum and Instruction Committee met on Wednesday, July 12th at 4 p.m. In attendance were Mr. Crispin, Mrs. Moody, Mrs. Rose, Mrs. Papalardo, Mrs. Pote, and myself. Some of the items we discussed included the use of grant money we were awarded for our Career Pathways program. The grant is actually for 4 years, and we thought it was only for 3. So some of the ways we might use the extra money could be hiring an additional teacher, creating additional electives, maybe having students in the academies attend some more competitions, or perhaps purchase some laptops for those students, and maybe any additional textbooks and equipment like that. So next up would be the development of a new position titled Athletic Site Manager. You'll see that on there. Whoever fills this position would simply be supervising the games that Mr. Shivers is unavailable at. We also talked about the new mascot. Seems like the Panther Cub is a popular choice. We talked about the start and end times of the school buildings. I think they've already been read tonight, so we won't go over that. We did talk about how we needed to stagger the times and hope that families can get to pick up children in multiple buildings, but also that we can keep the flow of traffic, because we all know how tricky it is around here at dismissal time. We also talked about some parking and different situations of parking at that building as well. And then Mr. Crispin gave us an update on current positions that need to be filled within the district. And that is it. So I will make a motion to approve items 2 through 36 as read. Any
Second.
questions?
Second, Pote. Any questions? Mrs. Roots, call the bill.
Higby Iona?
Yes.
Papalardo? Sorry, not here. Bolton?
Yes.
Farrell?
Yes.
Pote?
Yes.
Grossman?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Motion carries. I will turn it over to our Communication and Policy Chairperson, Mrs. Higby Iona.
Okay, the Communication and Policy Committee met on July 12th at 5 p.m. In attendance were myself, Board President Miller, Board Member Melissa Farrell, Interim Superintendent Mr. Crispin, and Business Administrator Mrs. Rose. The committee discussed and is recommending approval of the second reading of the revised policies on the agenda related to co-curricular activities and athletic competition. The committee will be considering at a later meeting revisions to the district's student drug policy. And the committee ended the meeting by discussing how we would like to hear from the community regarding the effectiveness of the district's communications across all of our outlets so that we can determine what improvements are needed to ensure that information regarding school issues and events is reaching the interested parties. So I will now move to approve item number 1 as written.
Second, Farrell.
Any discussion? Mrs. Rose, please call the vote.
Higgins-Iona,
Yes.
Bolton,
Yes.
Farrell,
Yes.
Hope,
Yes.
Grossman,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes. Before we get to our public hearing, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Grossman.
I would just like to state to the members of the public, I attended our town's council meeting this past month, as I attend most of them. I'd like to remain informed. And I understand my comments made may have offended some in the community, and I do apologize if the comment was taken in that regard. The intention of my comment, and I go to all the council meetings, most of them, and I'm so very rarely moved to speak, but I walked in and the borough was catching flack for not enforcing the silent zone in the parade. And my only intention of standing up to speak was to say that the 75% of the parade I attended was in the quiet zone. And I wanted to point out that the officer in charge, stationed right in front of Broadway Auto, informed every single group that approached Arbutus Corner that that was the start of the quiet zone. And that was the intent of my comment, just to say that that officer did his job. Whether they followed it from thereafter, but that officer did what he was instructed to do, and every group was warned to shut it down at the corner. So I do apologize if my comment was insensitive and taken the wrong way.
Thank you, Mr. Grossman, for the clarification. When members of the board make statements, they are representing their personal opinions and do not reflect those of the district, the board as a whole, or any other board members. The Board of Education believes all members of the public should have an opportunity to enjoy the parade. We are going to go into our second public hearing. This is second public comment. Please state your name, municipality of residence, and group affiliation if applicable, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. To be recognized to speak, please come to the microphone.
Try this again. I accept your apology, but I still have a statement to make. My name is Christine Ware. I live in Pitman at 429 Edsom Avenue. I am a strong advocate for special needs kids because I have one. So I wrote my statement because I don't public speak. My son James is entering the 2nd grade this September. James has a sensitivity to noise and loves to attend the parades in town. The quiet zone is beneficial for him because he gets to feel like a part of the community. Your statements did not seem like he was welcomed. The fact that the Board of Education member is advocating for these kids to be left out and just not attend events where there will be noise is frustrating and disheartening. This board is supposed to be here to support all children in the Pitman district. My struggle at this school last year, because of my son's special needs, and I'm afraid it will continue into next year with you on the board. So I asked for sensitivity training or a vote of no confidence against David Grossman. Thank you.
Hi, Dan Griffiths, 525 West Avenue, also parent to a child with special needs. Mr. Grossman just did make a statement. He apologized. I think we all do appreciate him apologizing, but it seemed like his apology was sort of an apology about the police. That wasn't his direct statement. His direct statement that he needs to apologize for was how about the special needs kids just don't go to the parade. I was both deeply alarmed and saddened to hear that a member of your school board would recommend that. A man that's making decisions about my child's education would say something off-putting to children in our community. And I do appreciate Mayor Razzi's comments about that, saying that the quiet zone was something they were going to go forward with. He wasn't thinking about recommending the kids not to go to the parade, so I appreciate him sticking up for the autistic children and the children with special needs in this town. Thank you.
Jennifer Trumpfeller, 525 West Avenue. I'm not going to be redundant. I'm on the same page with the last two people that spoke. My main issue was I just wanted to mention the tasteless shirt that Mr. Grossman wore. on the last council meeting. It said Black Rifles Matter. Yes, you are within your rights to wear and express yourself however you see fit, but when you decide to run and become a Board of Education member, you are expected to carry yourself with a little decorum in public. Gun violence is a serious issue, especially in schools. And to see a Board of Education member displaying sensationalness, especially at a council meeting, was just callous and disrespectful. A school board member is supposed to represent the school district, and a school board member mocking gun violence in any way is tasteless. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to participate in the public comment? Sure, go ahead.
Are you allowed to ask questions or just public comment?
We may not be able to respond, but you can ask a question.
It's a question about the agenda item. Well, first
Sure.
of all, thank you to the,
Just so we can
Oh,
get your
sure.
name on record.
sorry, Amy
Yeah.
Reed, 117 Magnolia
Sorry,
Avenue.
thank you.
I want to first express gratitude to the people who stood up. I appreciate those comments very much. My question is just in one of the agenda items, you mentioned the playground project. I'm just curious where that is, what's happening. And a second agenda item was about SB2 and the funding for that. And I am curious, and I have spoken with some of you about this before, of whether we can be more prepared for future budget cuts that it seems like, once again, likely are coming by involving the community much earlier in the process. So those are my two kind of questions.
Talk about the playground.
I can answer on both of those.
Great.
Playground project, we have put in the order for the playground. Unfortunately, we are still experiencing some supply issues with vendors. So the playground has been ordered. I was informed by our vendor that they are anticipating for it to come in August. They can't guarantee me that, but that is what they're anticipating. We are hoping to have some of our playground up by the second week of September, but anticipation for a complete playground is going to be November. So that's including the playground structure, the blacktop that's going to be over there. We are bringing over our 4 Gaga pits, 2 from Walls and 2 from Kindle, so they will be over there. Some picnic benches so that there is some places for people to sit. And we are going to have a shed out there, so like all of our supplies, our jump ropes, balls, and things like that for our gym equipment will be out there for children to be able to go out and play. But that's where we're at right now. Unfortunately, I can't give you a definitive date because we are at the mercy of the vendors and the suppliers. So that's where we are at.
And it will be on Summit?
It will be on Summit, yes. We are working with the police department. We will have a crossing guard there during recess. So during our lunch periods, there will be a crossing guard there to cross our students over. That is something that we are in process of working with the police department, and we continue to have meetings with them in regards to what we call our safety. So we just want to make sure that all of our children are safe. In regards to S2, I try and run a funding formula, and I can do that after our ASSA is submitted, so that's October 15th. Again, it's only an estimate, so it kind of just gives us an idea of where we're going to be. And at that point, I would go to Mr. Crispin and let him know where we feel we stand and the Board of Education so that we can always keep the community involved and be transparent as we were this year. We feel that's very important, so we'll do our best. Anything else?
Would anyone else like to participate in our public comment? All right, seeing none, I'll close that. I do not believe we have any old business or new business. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, take the item off.
May I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The next Board of Education meeting will be Wednesday, August 16th, 2023 in Pitman High School Media Center. All are welcome to attend.